Hello fellow RPG makers and welcome to another video. In the previous video I have shown you how to draw this beautiful text at the top of a window, but as you can see these items are empty, and they're empty on purpose because in this video I want to teach you how to create some more complex items than just drawing a simple text. This could be useful in, for example, shop menu cores, because in shop menus you don't want just a text of an item, you want perhaps a price that will be customizable, you want an icon, sometimes you want even the item text to be customizable. So to demonstrate how to kind of create custom data and how to work with custom data in the windows, I will use a simple example. I will use our states, and in front of the item I will draw the icon, where either it will be default if there will be no custom icon defined, or it will be the custom icon, and next to it I will draw the state name. So in order to define the custom icons, I will use the map node tag, so every map will define different icons based on how it wants. So let's parse it. Let's create a node tag. States. And now we need to define a namespace or naming convention for this node tag, because if I was to go like icon state ID, icon ID, another state ID, another icon ID, another state ID, icon ID, another state ID, icon ID, as it would get bigger and bigger, it would get more and more difficult to see what is the state and icon ID. So since the meta tags by default are strings, I'll use this to my advantage, and instead of creating arrays of 2, I will actually create strings of 2 separated by a colon. So this will be the state ID and its icon ID, state ID and its state ID and its icon ID, state ID and its icon ID, state ID and its icon ID. Let's close the node tag and press OK. And now if we restart the game, I said restart the game. For some reason the shortcut did not work. Open the console and go data map.meta. We can see that this meta state is really a string, and we need to parse it. We need to get rid of the spaces and the columns, and as well the commas. So to parse a node tag, we need to use a function that is fired after the map is loaded. So if we take a look inside the core scripts, we can see that the isReady function fires on map loaded when the map is loaded. So that is a perfect function for us. So let's copy it, paste it, and alias it. So alias scene map on map loaded equals scene map dot prototype dot on map loaded. Now let's delete this. Alias scene map on map loaded dot call this, and now we can do whatever we want. So this dot state parse state icon node tag scene map prototype dot parse state icon node tag equals function. And before we start, we need 2 containers. One container for the node tag icons, or for the state icons, because I won't be, if it was a real plugin, I would not be using the data from just this map. I would be using it from multiple maps, or perhaps, if I so wished, even plugin commands and events. So I need a container that will store all this data. So for that I will use var state icons equals an object, because objects make the data manipulation easier than arrays when I'm trying to delete from the middle, etc. And next I will also need a container that will contain which of these states I will display, because I have 10 states but only 8 items in the window. So var state display equals an array. I don't need it to be an object because I want it to be ordered, and since I won't be pushing or popping, I will be more or less defining it on the go. It makes it easier to manipulate. So let's now get to the parsing. We need to remember that the node tag contains items separated by a comma and an empty space. There is also an empty space at the front, and each item itself is separated by the colon. So all this needs to get rid of. So first let's make the spaces disappear, and now we cannot use the var x equals data map.meta.states yet, because the states are actually a string, and a string is a primitive, so we will be assigning a value to the variable x, and then if we try to alter it, we will be altering the value of x but not touching the value of the states variable. However, we will keep it here because it will soon come in handy. So data map.meta.states equals data map.meta.states.replace all spaces with nothing. So this will replace all spaces. If I just did this, it would replace only one space. So data map.meta.states equals data map.meta.states.split by the comma. And now that we have split the string into an array, we can finally use the var x, because an array is not a primitive, it is an object, and so this will be a reference and not an assignation of value or assignment of value. So now we can go for var I in x. First we need to split the item, so xi equals xi dot split by a colon. And now that it is split, we can finally begin to save the custom state data. So I want it to work that such as the value, if it is greater than 0 or 0, since it is the indexes start from 0, it will be the value, and if it is under 0 or below 0, in other words if it is negative, it will undefine the custom icon for the state. So if xi 1, because 0 contains the state ID and 1 will contain the icon ID, since split creates an array, equals not equals is less than 0. Oops, no, brackets. And now we will need to delete the state icons xi0. In other words, if the value is below 0, it will delete the state ID from this from the container. Now you don't need to worry if the ID does not exist, then simply nothing happens. The state icons will stay the same. It won't throw an error, it won't throw anything bad. So you can use this and don't need to worry about it being actually defined. So else state icons x xi 0 equals xi1. It is a little complex, but it will work if I save it and launch the game. I have made a typo in the script, so let's fix it. Oops. Data map.meta. We can see the states are an array of 4, which is an array of 2. Every object where 0 is the item ID, the state ID, and 1 is the icon ID. So now if we go state icons, we can see that it looks like this. Now if we want, we can convert this to a number for a better aesthetic value, but if you don't want, you can keep it just this. Either way, I will change it to a number. So now that we have parsed the node tag, let's continue. Now you don't need to worry that this setup will crash, because MV loads the map every time it goes from somewhere to a map. So in fact, even if you go from menu and back, or to battle and back, the data gets reloaded and the node tag reparsed. So there is no need to worry that you'll parse an already parsed node tag and it will result in a crash. If you want to be extra safe though, you can simply add a check here. If the data map dot is node tag parsed, or rather if not is node tag parsed, you'll call this function, and at the end you'll simply add data map dot is node tag parsed equals true. But as I said, you don't need to worry about this, since the map data gets reloaded every time. So now let's go to create the drawing. For that we will simply use the window tooth.prototype.draw item equals function index, and we need the item rect, the state ID, and the icon ID. So var state ID equals state display index. Now that we have the state ID, we can find the icon ID. Var icon ID equals, and now first we need to take a look if it's in the custom object, and if it's not there, then get the default one. So state icons state ID or data states state ID dot icon index. And now that we have the icon index, var rect equals this dot item rect index, and now we can just draw the item. So var icon, not var icon, this draw icon icon ID rect.x rect.y, and this draw text data states state ID dot text dot name rect.x plus 30 rect.y. So now if I save it and launch the game, first I need to define the state display, because I have only an empty array. So state display equals 2, 6, 4, 3, 10, 7, 8, 9. So now we have 8 items, and now if I press P, as you can see, I have it drawn here. Now if I check it, guard is state 2, and by default it has icon 0. State icons. Next to it we have silence, state 6, which if we take a look at the database, silence by default has icon 4, but here it has a custom icon because we have defined the icon index 10. So if we take a look inside the editor, we see that it checks out icon index 10. Then we have poison, that is a state 4 and has a state index 15. Now it is empty because if we take a look inside the state index again, we can see these are the 4 empty states, and here is state index 15. Then we have immortal, which is 3, and immortal has state index 0. Then we have sleep. Sleep is 10, and 10 by default has state icon 8, but we have defined 25, which is this beautiful lightning. Then we have rage, that has a poison icon, even though that looks kind of funny. But as you can see, 7, and here the icon 7 has the state 7 has icon index 2, which is the poison. And confusion and fascination have their default icons. Now the text is stretched out, but that is not a problem. This is a demonstration and not a plugin, so I don't really care about that. However, what I would care about is that if I don't have 8 items but I have less than that, there is a huge problem with it. In particular, let's say I have only this inside my array, and now I press P. This simply crashes because I need to draw I'm trying to draw an item that is not defined. So first of all, we need to create a check here that if index is greater than or equal to, then state display.length we simply return. But this does not save us from all demise. If we try to do it again, we can see that we can still select the last 2 items even though they are empty. So to deal with this, since this is not a scrollable window, I don't want to have these 2 items. To deal with this, there are 2 options. One of them is a simple and plain. You simply take the max items and return not 6, but since this is a variable, we'll return math.min either 8 or the state display.length. If I launch now, I don't even need the check, in fact, because this is simply 6. And if I try to click this or scroll this, I can scroll these. So this is one way. Another way would be using the select I like to use select more because as it is the not exactly full window, you can create a looping sequence. So window tooth.prototype.select equals function index if index is greater than or equal to state display dot length index equals 0. And now simply window selectable dot prototype dot select dot call this index. And now if I save it and launch the game, define the state display once again and press P. As you can see, I cannot click these two items either, but if I go at the end and press right or press right again, then it can loop, it loops. And if I press down, nothing happens, so as you can see, it is safe. The only bad thing is it does not loop in the opposite direction, but since we have an incomplete menu like this, I think this looks much better than if I just try to create a loop that goes both sides. So that will be it for this video. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!